Alright my guys, Pajero Wunya. You're going to Awabakal Nura. I'm down here today at Tukley, and today I'm going to talk to you guys about 12 volt systems. Now you see, we see it all the time on YouTube and everywhere else. $10,000 plus 12 volt systems with all the bells and whistles. Well, for those of you like me that don't have a heap of money to throw around, it's well out of our budget. So I feel that that will make a lot of people think that they can't get a decent 12 volt system without spending huge dollars like that. So today guys, I'm going to take you through my system, tried and tested. It's been in the car for over 2 years now. I'm going to show you what I've got and how much it's actually cost me. So first thing I've got to do is get all this shit out of here. Alrighty, so now that's all moved out of the way, we'll start with the giant 140 amp hour deep cycle battery. Now this is an AGM battery, and I'll explain to you in a few minutes why I purchased this one. But it's 140 amp hour, it's held in with a little strap and doesn't move whatsoever. Now reasons behind purchasing is one, it fits where I needed it, and two, it was a good price. I did some tests and some calculations and everything before I started with the build, and I knew what height I needed and I knew what power I needed. So the 140 amp hour from Aussie Batteries and Solar up in Queensland, they shipped it to my door. The delivery time was great. Battery has done me really well. Now on top of the battery I have the Matson Bluetooth monitor from Super Cheap Auto. Quite cheap, transmits to my phone, automatically connects and does everything I need it to do. You can see here I have a separate fuse. That line runs all the power at the front of the car, and then everything runs up into here and into my drawer system here. Now this section here, this is where it gets interesting. So in here we have the heart of the control center, the C-Tech-D250 SE, picked up from 4-wheel drive super center. Little fuse box, nothing too flash, and a few USB chargers and a little 12 volt lighter socket. The USB and everything go inside to the top section of the cabinet here, where they charge phones, cameras, things like that overnight. And obviously everything is individually fused. You'll notice on the fuse box, I have one light on at the moment. That's because there's no fuse in there. So why did I buy the items I did? Well, firstly, I went through before buying the battery, and I worked out a few specific things that I needed to know. One, how much power was I going to be using, and how much was I likely to use when I was doing a night or 2 nights camping. Two, how much is it going to cost? Three, is it going to fit in the compartment that I have it for? So with all that information, I went through and I realised that 140 amp hours should be more than enough charge for what I need. And if not, I've got the DC to DC charger so I can charge from the alternator. So the Aussie Batteries and Solar giant 140 amp hour AGM deep cycle, that at today's price costs $309. I believe from memory I paid about $280 for that, and that was shipped to my door. The 140 amp hour is enough. It's more than what I need for my charging, and its dimensions fit absolutely perfect in where I wanted it to fit in the third row seat well for the Pajero. So that battery for me was the perfect option. Why did I go the C-Tech-D250 SE? Well, as I already mentioned, it supports lithium and it supports smart alternators. So if I wish to upgrade the vehicle later on or wish to upgrade the battery to a lithium, then that DC to DC charger won't need to be replaced. It will still do the job. Plus it takes solar input, which was a big thing because that was one of my biggest plans, was to have solar on the roof. Solar panel, what am I actually running as in regard to a solar panel? Well, to be honest guys, it's the cheapo 110 watt fixed solar panel from Kings, from 4-wheel drive super center. Today's price, that's 80 bucks. The C-Tech, $399 at today's price. This is going off their websites this morning before I came out to film this. My fuse box cost me around about 60 bucks. Look, I don't remember an exact price, and I can't seem to find that exact one now on the Supercheap website or anywhere else, but I'm pretty sure I got it from Supercheap. I have a circuit breaker in the front coming from the battery to the C-Tech. That's for the line that it runs when charging from the alternator. That was about $15. I purchased a pack of about 20 Anderson plugs from eBay for about 20 bucks. That's how the solar plugs in on the roof, and I've got a second one up there for an additional solar panel if I need to, be it a portable one or a second fixed one, which I may upgrade to later. Down the bottom here, if you can see on camera, I do have another Anderson plug, and that's where I plug in a 12 volt charger from home. It's only about 2.5 amp, but it's a 240 one that runs off the wall, and on bad weather when I'm not getting solar and I'm not driving, I'll plug that in just to keep the battery floated, and it gives me more than enough. So the Anderson plugs cost me about 20 bucks. The Bluetooth monitor, it's $57 at today's price. From memory, I paid $49 from Supercheap Auto. Oh, it's been a great system. I've had it in the car for 2 years. It really hasn't let me down. The only time I have had a problem is back in April. I came back from a small trip. We got rained out, so I came home early and parked the car up, didn't go anywhere for a few days. I noted then, after about 4 or 5 days, that my solar panel was unplugged, and according to the Bluetooth monitor, my battery level was 0. It was around about 12 volts even. So that's the only drama I have had, and I think I might have dropped a cell or something, because I do feel it is discharging a little bit faster now than what it was then. But otherwise, guys, 2 years. This runs, as mentioned, charges all the equipment that I put in the top here, so all my cameras get charged off that when I'm doing a trip. I run the UHF radio lights, things like that off the front. I run all my camp lights. I run the interior lights that you may be able to see shining behind me here. All that stuff gets run off the battery system, and it has done me really well. So, how much does it cost me in total? Well, at today's price, not including the official wiring and the fuses, the lighter sockets, things like that, look, they're all cheap items, $5, $10 at the most. The wiring is probably the most expensive part, but from my calculations, it's about $940. Round it up a bit for your wiring and fuses and stuff like that, and say $1,000 even, and that covers everything. What about the fridge? Well, you know, the fridge is obviously going to be one of the big expenses. And I will admit, the 30-litre drawer fridge is not the cheapest option. The standard chest fridges that you normally buy, like the King's ones and Engel and everyone else, they, size per dollar, are normally a much better option. However, the drawer fridge is exactly what I needed because it fit under the drawer system and the shelf system that I was building. And that's why I opted for the Dometic CD-30 as well, because it fits the measurements that I needed. Most of the others, especially the 40-litre ones, were too big to suit my specific measurements. The Dometic CD-30 fit very nicely, and I picked that up from Snowy's. Today's price is $949, which I believe is a bit excessive. From memory, I paid somewhere about $6.99 2 years ago, so it has definitely increased quite considerably. But $6.99 it cost me. Today at $9.49, well, guys, that's a solar panel, DC to DC charger, deep cycle AGM battery at 140 amp, your wiring, your fuses, all that sort of stuff, and a fridge for under $2,000. So forget all these 10 grand builds. If you're looking for a cheap, basic budget setup, $2,000, guys, under $2,000 with a fridge, under $1,000 for the whole system. I will say, obviously, if you're paying someone to install all this for you, then it is obviously gonna cost you more money. You know, if you do it yourself, if you've got some mates that can help you out that actually know a fair bit about car electronics, and I do have a good mate that's a Sparky, and he's helped me considerably. So if you got that and you can do it yourself, you'll save a heap. But at the end of the day, guys, still, even if you pay $1,000 labour, $2,000 to get everything installed, $3,000 if you include the fridge, that's a bloody bargain compared to these 10 grand builds, and it will do exactly what you need it. Alright guys, that's a basic run through on my 12 volt system. Again, remember, it's been 2 years in this car and it hasn't let me down, so look, I sure as hell can't complain about it. Alright guys, that's it. Take care, peace, and as always, I'll see you on the tracks. Yarnul.